This weekend, the 8th and presumably final Mission Impossible movie releases into theaters. It was my most anticipated movie of the year, called Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Here is my review. Before I dive right in, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what are your opinions on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I would love to know all that and more down below in the comment section. I was very much looking forward to this movie. This franchise is my favorite movie franchise of all time. I don't think there's a single bad movie in the franchise. I was just looking forward to the movie closing out, hopefully in a satisfying way. When the early reviews came out, can't lie, I got a little tiny weensy bit nervous. But what did I think of the movie? And I was a little disappointed by it. Not even just a little. I was a lot disappointed by it. This movie is extremely disappointing to me. That's not to say it's a bad movie. When you say a disappointing movie, it does not mean it's a bad movie. It's just a movie you're expecting to be an A-plus movie, and it ends up being, well, I'll tell you the score at the end of the video. There are some fantastic things in here. First off, I saw this one in IMAX, and there are two sequences that are must-see in IMAX. One specifically has had me on the edge of my seat. The other one, it got real good near the end of the sequence. I wasn't fully invested because of what they did with it. Like, the first part of the sequence, near the end of the sequence, I thought it was amazing. And just both of those scenes, both of them are shot in just an IMAX format, and it's absolutely gorgeous to look at. And probably one of the best movie sequences I've honestly ever seen in a theater. They are two of the top 5 Mission Impossible sequences. At least I know the one is. Of the entire franchise. They are great sequences. And when I talk about the movie closing out in a satisfying way, I think this movie was satisfying enough. I was satisfied with the end result of this movie, just because my big complaint about the franchise is that a lot of the movies, it has Ethan Hunt being the hero who is on the run from his government but trying to do the right thing in almost every single one of his movies. I feel like the way the movie closed out, the way the movie wrapped up, the way the franchise wrapped up, it kind of gave out a closing to that and made that problem that I had with the overall franchise much better. And so I did find it very, very satisfying the way the film closed out. And there are some emotions here. I did cry twice during this movie, even though I thought it was disappointing. There are 2 sequences I cried at. You'll probably know them when you see them in the movie. The score, still very good. Mission Impossible score, one of my favorites. This is a great sweeping score. And the plot itself of the movie is more, I think it's more dangerous, because it's about this entity, and after the results of Dead Reckoning, which is one of my personal favorite Mission Impossible movies, it sets all of that up, and you have this big sweeping story about nuclear warfare and trying to prevent the fate of all humanity. So the story is more dangerous, the story has more stakes than the rest of the franchise. Unfortunately, the story also might be my biggest problem with the movie. With a story that has to set up what happened after Dead Reckoning, and the fact that we're having a global warfare, and the fact that how Ethan has to stop all this. The story itself calls for a lot, and I do mean a lot, of freaking exposition, where the first 20 minutes feel so weird and rushed. Like, we have this action sequence, and it's just so weird and rushed and not at all very good. And then you get so many sequences where characters are just talking like, okay, yeah, we got warfare, the entity's got control of all this is what's going on, we got a mission, this is our plan, we got another mission, this is our plan. And it goes into so much exposition without really doing anything exciting or eventful in the Mission Impossible franchise. I kid you not, it's probably an hour and a half until we get our first action sequence. And the action sequences, where, when you think of Dead Reckoning, have the best action sequences in this franchise. Every single one of them is able to add something. Add something to keep you on your toes. This one was just, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then we get an action sequence near the end of the film. That's the only next action sequence. And I think the sequence, like I said, is pretty good just because of what they do in the final 20 minutes, I'd say, of that. But the movie never does anything. It never captures the highs of the franchise. This franchise is my favorite because of how much I love the characters and the action sequences. And this one, I still love these characters. I still like the story. But due to the story, we have all this exposition, and we barely get any action. We barely get any of the stuff you go to a Mission Impossible movie for. The one sequence I was talking about, I wouldn't even clarify as an action sequence. Is it intense? Is it entertaining? Yes, it is, but it's not like an action sequence. It's a sequence that like genuinely took my breath away, yes, but it's not like an action sequence that captures what the other Mission Impossible movies does. So it's surprisingly very slow. There's so much exposition, and I can't lie, I kept sitting down waiting, when we're gonna get to the good part, when we're gonna get to the good part, and then we get that awesome sequence, and then it'd be like, when are we going to get to the good part? When are we going to get to the good part? And then near the final, I'd say 20 minutes of the movie, left this huge, great taste in my mouth because it's closed out the saga very satisfying. And I did like the final 20 minutes of the movie, but constantly the entire movie was so paced so slowly. I was like, when is it going to get to the stuff I go to these Mission Impossible movies for? And unfortunately, for a 2-hour and 49-minute movie, we barely ever get there. It is 2 hours and 49 minutes. I posted on Twitter when they announced the runtime. I was like, yes, I get to be with these characters for 3 more hours. Not a good idea, honestly. Because of so much exposition, we have so many sequences of the characters just sitting around. Here's the plan, here's the plan, yep, there's the plan, and let's go. And then we don't get any action. Then we get the action, and we get more sequences of characters. Oh, here's a plan, here's a plan, here's a plan, let's go. The pacing, the story, and even though like it's a big story, it just calls for a lot of exposition. I feel like they could have handled the movie and the pacing much, much, much better than they did here. We'll also get new characters in this movie that I don't really care much for. Like, we get sudden callbacks to Mission Impossible 1 that, with a certain character that I was like, okay, he's fine. They do a running gag that I don't think is genuinely all that funny. So, like, it kind of felt like we were wasting time there. We even get, like, a certain plot twist with a certain character that just felt like a waste of time and was just there to be like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that happened. Even our team, I don't even feel our team is as strong. I'll tell you the team, we got Pom Klementieff, who was great in that first movie. She kind of just felt like the comedic relief here for the squad. Like, the tone of the movie feels so different from the other Mission Impossible movies, where the other Mission Impossible movies have comedy in it. This kind of felt like it was taking the MCU comedy route, which is good for the MCU. I genuinely like that in the MCU, but for this movie, I don't feel like it matched all that well. But it feels like it's taking the MCU comedy route, and I'm not, don't think that fits very well. But you got Pom Klementieff, you got the black character that was after Ethan Hunt in the last movie, who doesn't really have much to do throughout the entire movie. You got Benji, you got Luther, you got Ethan. But the team never fully feels like a team. You never really have that one sequence until like the final 20 minutes where the team is actually acting like a team. It's just like, okay, this is the group of people that are going to save the world. And that's what it is. Even like the villain, Gabriel, who's so good in Dead Reckoning, it just kind of felt like a cartoon here. Ah, Ethan, I got the upper hand, Ethan. And then runs away into the sunset. Even like the thing that they do with him in the final 20 minutes, I wasn't too big of a fan of, because I thought he was such a great villain in Dead Reckoning, and not in here. There's so many issues. I have so many issues, and it breaks my heart that I have these issues, because this is my favorite movie franchise of all time. The movie's good. Like I said, we still got those sequences. We still got the missions. We still got the big, ginormous set pieces that I think are good. But for what I was expecting in this movie, it's not it. It's not the best conclusion they could have gone. And my thought leaving the theater was, rework it a little bit, and Dead Reckoning and the Final Reckoning could have been made into one movie. I genuinely think that this could be made into one movie. Now, that's a big hot take, I know. But I genuinely think that this movie could have been squeezed into one feature-length 3-hour, 3.5-hour movie. It feels like we had so much setup to just get a little bit of payoff in the end in this movie. Dead Reckoning, my favorite Mission Impossible movie. This one, like, it doesn't have that satisfying conclusion, and I feel like if you combine the two, you have all the amazing action sequences of Dead Reckoning combined with the story of this one, kind of trim out some of those exposition, we could have another masterpiece. This one just, I don't know, breaks my heart that I even have issues with it. Because I was expecting this one to be a perfect movie. So, I like the movie. It's not my least favorite Mission Impossible movie, but, like, I'm seeing people love it on Twitter, love it on Letterboxd, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I thought it was good, but it was the most, probably out of all of them, the most flawed Mission Impossible movie. So, for me, it's going to be pretty low in the ranking I'm going to have in a couple of days. But hey, we do have 2 all-timer sequences that I am considering going to see the movie again, and maybe my thoughts will switch up. Because, if you think about it, for me, anyways, Rogue Nation, Fallout, Dead Reckoning, I was not too big on for the most, like, after my first viewing, and then they all became my favorites. Now, I think this one is that for a different reason, where Fallout, I feel like the story wasn't as memorable. Rogue Nation, feel like we were kind of adapting to the McCurry era, and Dead Reckoning, I thought the story was a little bit mixed. Now, those are just great, awesome action movies that I just always watch over and over, and this whole franchise is like my comfort movies. But this one, I don't know if I'll be revisiting that often. I don't know if I'm going to ever choose to watch this one over Dead Reckoning, Rogue Nation, Fallout, Ghost Protocol, 3 or 1 even, because of the pacing and all the issues I had. So, pretty frustrating one for me. Before I give you my final score, please make sure to subscribe, like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what are your opinions on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I'm going to have a Mission Impossible movies ranked in the coming days, and so stay tuned for that video. And with that said, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is a good movie. It's got some great stuff in here, but the pacing, the constant exposition, even the flashbacks, so many flashbacks, really bogged this one down for me. So we do have 2 great all-timer sequences. I think if you didn't have those sequences, I probably wouldn't have liked this movie at all. But you do have sequences that were awesome to see in IMAX, but easily my most disappointing movie of the year, and it's one of the most frustrating movies I've seen in quite some time. I am only going to give it a B-. I'm not going to give it like a C or anything. A B- I think is a proper score here. I was tremendously disappointed with The Final Reckoning. Maybe I'll love it on a second watch. I'm considering seeing it a second time, but I don't know. Really frustrating movie. Stay tuned for the Mission Impossible ranking in the coming days. I also have one more Final Destination video, the movies ranked by the kills. And with that said, subscribe.